everybody. Good morning. Thank you for sharing your space with us. We are on a tree, and we are artists, we are land stewards, we are educators, and we are believers of collective liberation. And this is our song of intention. Thank you. This next one that we have for you is about fighting that internal and that external war that we're all facing, and about protecting Mother Earth, because she is us and we are her, and we are tiny but mighty.
When you feel so small,
Tiny but mighty.
you do nothing at all.
Tiny but mighty.
Does the world stand still? Does your will stand tall? There's a war outside my door. There's a war within my core. Now I see I can't ignore. Now I see I can't ignore. Oh, the man has ruined the land, but these hands can make us stand. 'Cause I am, you are, we are tiny but mighty, tiny but mighty. Ah, hey, 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 ah.
Take a look at yourself.
Tiny but mighty.
Take a look at their wealth. Are they trying to help?
Tiny but mighty.
Do they care for your help? There's a war outside my door. There's a war within my core. Now I see I can't ignore. Now I see I can't ignore. Oh, the man has ruin the land, but these hands can make a stand. 'Cause I am, you are, we are, tiny but mighty, tiny but mighty. Roots being pulled out from the earth underneath, just to provide more than enough for the people to eat.
The circle of life becomes circle of lies. 'Cause
Too much greed is animal and human sacrifice. Too much greed is animal and human sacrifice. Too much greed is animal and human sacrifice. Hey, hey, hey.
tiny but mighty, tiny but mighty, tiny but mighty, tiny but mighty.
Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you, thank you.
They are tiny but mighty. Thank you. Don't worry about it. David Mormon makes sure that we have all kinds of unbelievable artists performing here. We're so thankful. Excuse me, my sister took care of it, Tanya. So my title this morning, even though you don't want to believe it, but the obstacle is the way. I am in Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, the timeless art of turning trials into triumph. Have you ever realized that after your trial comes the triumph? And our spiritual principle says that freedom is everyone's birthright, and that includes all forms of discord. That we should all understand that we are moving toward no discord. Richard Wright is an African-American author who was born in 1908 in Roxy, Mississippi. The date and the location are important, right? Because we must place ourselves in the context of the time and the location. It's the Jim Crow South. Now, it's 1908 when he's born. Women were not allowed to vote in every state until 1920. So that gives you a time frame of what it means. However, African Americans were not allowed to vote in every state until the 1960s. Yeah, that's true. Jim Crow laws were in place, and they created an element of cultural poverty. However, Richard Wright, the author of Uncle Tom's Children, and most of you may know Native Son, wanted to read. So he decided not to let anything stand in his way. Have you ever had something burning in your soul that you just did not understand how in the world it could ever materialize? An inconceivable vision that looks impossible to us as we look for it, and entirely too difficult to achieve. I've been there. I certainly have been there. I fell in love with the Spirit when I was 14 years old and was filled with joy beyond description. And to be perfectly honest with you, a love so deep that I feel it up to the last breath I took. It's still with me. And I can't imagine living without it. But at the same time, I felt I wanted to go to seminary, 14 years old. So I received catalogs, and I read them as if they were textbooks. But the fire that burned within me, I understand there was no place for me. There was absolutely no place for me. So I had no idea how it materialized in my life. I read endlessly, trying to figure out what I should do. I looked, I'll do this, I'll do that. There was only one seminary in Detroit, and it was the Roman Catholic Seminary. And they didn't want me either. Now, my parents were of the opinion that seminary was cemetery. Okay? They were very, very clear about it. My mother did not believe you were going to stay spirit-filled if you went to seminary. There's just no way in the world. So after I completed undergrad, I went to Bible college. I studied, and the more I studied, the more I gravitated to science of mind. So even though that's not the end of the story, I couldn't have imagined that what was happening to me, how it would eventually manifest in my life. I didn't understand that the obstacles were there, and they were moving me from trial to triumph. My underlying virtue was I had to be authentic, and I wasn't going to school or church or any place else and not be anything other than who I was. And I am that to this day. So if I had followed the traditional path, I would have had to compromise. So I chose not to do it. I just didn't have the ability to do it. But I would not be the man that I am today had I done that. Ryan Holiday writes, as it turns out, the one thing all great men and women of history have in common, like oxygen to fire, obstacles fueled the blaze, which was their ambition. Nothing could stop them. They were, and they continue to be, impossible to discourage or contain. Every impediment only made the inferno within them burn with greater ferocity. Richard Wright was born again in 1908 and on a plantation with a sharecropper father and a mother who was a teacher. His grandparents were born into chattel slavery, but he had a vision for the future. A sharecropper was the American economic system that replaced slavery. And people were allowed to plant on a land, and the landowner took all of the contents except for enough for the family to just sustain themselves so that they continue to farm. So you were making money for someone else on a land that you did not own. His mother was a teacher. Well, how did that happen? Well, immediately following the illegalization of slavery, there was a period of Reconstruction. And during Reconstruction, there were efforts that were made to promote civil rights and civil justice. There were African Americans in Congress during that time. But Reconstruction was halted and replaced by Jim Crow laws of separate but equal. His parents were born free, but at a time of slavery. His father abandoned them, and so his mother moved them to their grandparents' home. Richard, by mistake, burned down the house. Now, this is before insurance, so they lost their home. Overwhelmed with grief, the mother placed her sons in a Methodist orphanage. It wasn't until he was 12 years old that he ever completed 1 year of school. But Richard would not be discouraged. He wanted to read and he wanted to learn. So he stole a library card and he wrote a note to the librarian and said, "Will you let this N-word pick up some books for the writer of this note?" So he successfully used the public library since no one believed that they would write such a note about themselves. So you think you've had some obstacles that you had to overcome? Wait till you have to lie about who you are just to borrow a book. Obstacle after obstacle presented themselves before his life, not knowing that from the trials of his life, he would eventually end up in triumph. He published his first article at 15. He didn't start to school till he was 12. And he finished high school as valedictorian. Let's celebrate. This is determination. Will not be toward it where you look at every obstacle and you just know that you have to overcome. After he completed high school, he received the Guggenheim Fellowship so that he could write. So his writing was funded by the Guggenheim Fellowship. Every obstacle was in the way to pave the way from trial to triumph. Ryan Holiday, the author of Obstacle is the Way, is a book about the Stoics. But he describes Richard Wright's story in the book. What do you think when I say the word stoic? Do you think emotionless, unapproachable, just kind of difficult to get along with? Well, Stoicism is not that way at all. It's a misrepresentation of Stoicism. Stoicism is about being pragmatic. How do you get to your goal regardless of what is going on in your life? They taught, don't be lost by trying to be perfect. Just make a step. We would say, honey, just break a move. Just bust a move and go on. They taught that you had to be ambitious and you had to want it and you should be aggressive towards your goal. Rooted in ideals, though, they were practical and guided by all they thought that was possible. Being ambitious enough to propel you to keep you going as you deal with the obstacles of life. They said, don't think small. Distinguish what is critical from what is extra. A lot of stuff is just extra. The Stoics were the people who turned obstacles upside down. A philosophy rooted in overcoming adversity. We ought to agree with these people. And endurance and resilience. Holiday highlights that the stories of these successful individuals are all based on an inner strength of the individual and the character of that person to overcome, regardless to their talents and their luck. By focusing on things within their control, and letting go of those things that were not in control, that's being pragmatic, that is how they overcame obstacles. We resist that the obstacle has any power over our happiness. The opposition that is in front of me cannot take my happiness away unless I give it over to that. We don't resist the obstacle. We deny that the obstacle has any power over our lives. We deny that it has any power. And because I learned over time that with the Spirit all things work together for good, you just might as well rejoice while you're going through the obstacle. We used to say when I was a kid, don't wait till the battle is over, shout now. Those of you that are in the room grew up like I did know exactly what I'm talking about. There are three components to the philosophy: perception, action, and will. And we are only talking about perception today. Perception is how we understand and give meaning to the things that go on around us. It is perceived in two ways, objectively and subjectively. When you go to the doctor and the doctor says to you, how do you feel? And you say, I'm okay, that is subjective. When he measures your blood pressure and it's 120/80, it's objective. So hopefully you still feel good regardless to what the numbers are. But if their numbers are good and you still don't feel good, there's something not in agreement. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you regretted? Never, right? That you regret. And this is because we get caught up in the emotion of the circumstances and not think objectively when we are in the situation. As the heat rises, I try to tell myself, just chill, Rick. Nobody's going to die. How many of you have heard me say that? The flowers aren't here. Nobody's going to die. Okay? We must be calm and focused on mastering our emotions to become more resilient to deal with the opposition in life. According to the Stoics, perceptions can be a source of great strength or they can be a weakness for us. If we are too emotional, we add trouble, emotional trouble. We are too subjective and short-sighted. The emotions are only focused and come from fear. Now, our feelings are the only thing that don't lie to us, but our feelings and our emotions are not the same thing. Our feelings don't lie. Our emotions do all kinds of things. To avoid being carried away with the circumstances in life, though, and the conditions that are going on around us, we have to balance the subjective with the objective. We should remove any distractions. And they taught, as you are resilient and calm as you approach life and keep your composure, you can learn how to become more and more objective and when you handle issues in your life, because they are perceived setbacks. There are obstacles that are moving you from your trial to your triumph. When everything is pulled away, the only thing left is truth. Does that sound familiar? The Stoics were science of mind. The only thing left is the truth. It's principle or condition, and if it is a condition, it is subject to change. We hold to an unchangeable principle, knowing that conditions are only a distraction, and when you peel them away, there's nothing left but the truth. That's all that's left. It is freedom from discord. So as you go through every opposition in life and all the obstacles present themselves, you have to understand that the promise set before you is that all discord will eventually go away. Ryan says, while others are excited or afraid, we will remain calm and collected. We see things straightforwardly as they are, neither good nor bad. This will be the invincible advantage that we have in life. The Stoics, founded by Zeno, believed that virtue was everything. Virtue, that you stick to the principle regardless to the circumstances, which is why I encourage you, stick to principle. Regardless to what is going on the left and the right, you stick to principle. As we deal with life and philosophically approach the world, though, we have to understand what will keep us centered, what will give us tranquility of mind and certainty of moral worth. See, we can't relent and play the same game that everybody else plays, not if we hold to the truth. The philosophy is based on 5 virtues: wisdom, courage, moderation, something I'm not great with, justice, and living in accordance with nature. They taught that no obstacle was too big. Have you ever had an obstacle that was too big? Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't. We know that the Spirit works it all together for our good, and that's the empowering presence that goes with all of us. Richard Wright understood that his obstacles, and he perceived the circumstances. Although he was African American, he was poor in a system that was designed for him to fail. Objectively, he just wanted to read, and he let nothing stand in his way. So whenever we make a statement, some people want to believe that you have to take advantage of other people to get what you want in life. The Stoics would say, no, you stick to your virtues. We would say you stick to principle. It's not true for the Stoics. They didn't believe that you just take advantage of other people. You can succeed and overcome the obstacles in your life without capitulating to what everyone else is doing. According to the Stoics, the obstacle is the way. And as he overcame each individual obstacle, it paved the way for his success. So, do you have any obstacles? Have you had any obstacles in life? Instead of resenting them, have you considered the obstacle that makes a way to turn your trials into triumph? Don't resent them. Love them, but do not let them have power over your peace and happiness. Never waste a crisis. Never waste a crisis. In every obstacle, I find the opportunity for growth and progress. I embrace challenges as stepping stones to success. What stands in my way is the path of realizing my full potential. And when I run out, I know the Spirit steps in, and so it is. Yeah. The obstacle is the way, just giving thanks and praise. I didn't know I needed to appreciate the trial. I didn't understand that I needed to appreciate all the opposition, the criticism, all of the things that were difficult for me. I didn't understand that they were only obstacles paving the way for my triumph in my life. And I hope this is so for you. And so it is. Whew.